Today's lesson is over learning target 3, where at the end you should be able to say, I can interpret linear functions by their rates of change. Okay? So the one phrase that we're talking about today is the rate of change, and this is a rate that describes how one quantity changes in relation to another quantity. So in overall, we're going to be talking about how this changes between two values on your coordinate plane, so the x values and the y values. So the formula that we're going to use for this is the change in y's divided by the change in x's. Okay, and one thing here we want to be able to do is kind of figure out where this fits in. So rate of change is slope in a linear function, and this means that this is the same when written in slope-intercept form. Okay, so remember what slope-intercept form is. It is y equals mx plus b, where the value of m is actually representing your slope, which is the same thing as your rate of change. Okay, so in our equations, we want to identify where that slope is. So number 1, 3/5 is that rate of change or that slope. So 3/5 would be my answer. Okay. Now number 2, there is no like x value there. So if I rewrote this and said y equals 0x plus 4, because it would be the same thing, 0 would be that value that I'm looking for, or that rate of change. I can kind of abbreviate it and say ROC if I'd like. So 0 would be my answer there. On number 3, it is switched around and mixed up in a different order, but just know that I can rewrite this as y equals 2x plus 8. And so the value that is in the m position is the 2, which is our rate of change here. Okay, so always remember that the number multiplied to the x is our rate of change or our slope. So in number 4, negative 1/3 is that number. So negative 1/3 is our rate of change or our slope. Okay. Next, we want to be able to calculate the rate of change given 2 points. So to do that, we want to subtract the two values, so the two y's, the difference of those, divided by the two x's. Now notice I have 1's and 2's there. That's to determine the different values, since there's 2 points that are going to have an x and a y. Now it doesn't matter which points you denote as x1, y1, and x2, y2, just as long as you denote them. So like for number 1, I denote the first one as x1, y1, so I put the y's on the top in the same order, so 0 minus 5 divided by negative 2 minus 1, and so that gets me negative 5 over negative 3, and the negatives kind of cancel each other out, leaving me with 5/3. So that would be my slope or my rate of change. Number 2, if I switch the order, made the first point written the 2's and the second point the 1's, it will still get me the same answer as if you did it the other way. So on the top I have negative 3 minus 4, and on the bottom 2 minus negative 3, remember that's a double negative, so it makes it positive, so I get negative 7/5. For the last one, I'm going to make the first point my x1, y1, second point x2, y2, I put it in there, negative 2 minus a negative 2 on the top, divided by negative 4, minus a 0 on the bottom. Top number, double negative, changes it to positive. Negative 2 plus 2 cancels out, gets you 0. So 0 divided by negative 4 is 0. Okay. Now I can do the same thing with the table, but sometimes there's meanings in them. Here you have to pull out certain points and call them whatever you want. You don't have to use each point, so I pulled out the point 2,78 and 6,234 and put it into my equation. And so the top gave me a negative 156, bottom was negative 4, so total that gave me 39. Now I need to kind of describe what this means, and so I want to write it as a fraction, so 39 over 1. So the 39 refers to the y's, the 1 refers to the x's. Now going back to your table, y represents money or the cost, and then x's represents the number of computer games. So if I'm thinking about this logically, that means that for every one or for each computer game, they're going to cost me $39. So each game costs $39. And then just a simple sentence like that. Okay, number 2, I'm going to pick 2 points to be my x1, y1, x2, y2. So it looks like I'll pick 6, negative 96. Sorry, not negative. 6 comma 96 is my first point. 9 comma 144 is my second point. And I put it into my rate of change formula. So I get 96 minus 144 divided by 6 minus 9. And then from there, the top gets me negative 48. And then the bottom negative 3. So that gets me 16. So that's my rate of change, but the same idea. I'm going to put this as a fraction. The 60 represents the y. The 1 represents the x. Y's are talking about area of the tiled surface. And then the x's are talking about the number of tiles. So here, what it's kind of talking about is every tile is going to cover an area of 16 square inches. Okay? So every one tile does that. We'll move on to the last slide. Now here we have a map or a graph that's going to kind of determine or looking at US amusement parks and their attendance. So here it wants me to find the rate of change between 2000 and 2002. So my 2 points are the values of 2000, 317. And then in 2002, there was attendance of 3,000 or 324. Remember, these are in millions. So that first number, that 100, is just an abbreviation of millions, just so we're not dealing with too big of numbers. I have to know which one's my xy1 or x1, y1, x2, y2, and I subtract, putting the y's on the top, the x's on the bottom. That gets me negative 7 over negative 2, and then that's 7/2, or 3.5. Okay, number 2 wants you to compare 2002 to 2004. So I'm going to reuse one of the points and then use the 2004 value, which is 325 million. Okay, denote one to be my x1, y1, and the other one x2, y2. Put them into my formula. So then here, when I subtract these two, on the top I get negative 1, and on the bottom I get negative 2. So it's really just 1/2. Okay, and so on the last problem, they want us to compare these two rates. So it looks like to me that the rate of change between 2000 to 2002 is greater than the rate of change between 2002 and 2004. Okay, that's really the only comparison that we can make there. Okay, so hopefully this video was helpful for your learning and your understanding of rate of change. Let me know if you have any questions later on. Take care.